In 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, incoming!
What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Omnic Lab. We are a podcast that focuses on the strategy in the game of Overwatch. We'll help you learn through trial and error, just like in a lab, even if things get crazy and maybe our concoctions blow up a little bit in our faces. We hopefully will equip you, the listener, with some strategies to work on your gameplay, maybe your positioning, stir in some tips to help you play better, and hopefully concoct you the exact right potion for you to get into ranked and rank up. I'm your host, Rob May, on episode number 47, and joining me all the way from the United States is Andres Gomez. What's up, Andres?
What's up, Rob? I had a great morning today. With my girlfriend and I, we kind of like dusted off the slow cooker. We haven't used it in a long time. And I woke up this morning to the most delicious slow cooked pork smell ever, just invading the entire house. And I'm like, oh my God, I need to start doing this like every night, especially because the food just kind of cooks itself. You don't even have to like do anything about it. It's good stuff.
That's great. I have been enjoying Japanese version of a mini frozen pizza, and that's how badly I miss pizza right now.
It's just craving it over there.
These little toaster ovens, and they're like this big, and you buy them, and it's like $3 each, and I have to eat like 2 of them because they're so small. Like, that's how badly I miss pizza right now.
I'm curious over here, just before we get into like all the Overwatch stuff, like what is your like normal like eating over there? Like what is like your average meal every day?
So, all right. So we spend an exorbitant amount of money on breakfast because for whatever reason, breakfast is not something you either have here or they just don't eat very much for breakfast.
Interesting.
At all. So
it's like the opposite of America.
We spend a lot of money because there is no breakfast cereals here. So your Trix, your Captain Crunch, your whatever, you name it, we don't got it. The only thing that they have here is like cornflakes and granola. And the granola can be really expensive. Like, I don't know how many grams it is. I'd have to look at it again. It might be somewhere around 750 or 500 gram bags of this granola, but they are fantastic. They have little chunks of like apple that are squared, they're diced, and then there's like mango, and it's really good granola and mixed with fruit, but it's about roughly $7 a bag. So a little much, but between me and my wife, I think we're doing okay to kind of spend money on that. If we're going to spend and splurge on food, we're just gonna
I gotta get that granola, dude.
Breakfast. Yeah, but let me tell you what. There's this thing. There's a couple dishes called yakisoba. You guys might know that. It's like basically fried noodles with a little bit of like curry powder mixed in. It's fantastic. I love that. Good. I get that a lot. There's something called onigiri or onigiri, if you want to look up the spelling. Those little triangle things that you see in like Pokemon Snap. With
Is it like the rice bowls or the rice patties? Yeah.
Yep, it's a rice ball. So you can get those. You can get sushi. You can get, you can get anything. There's a ramen shop right outside the door, like less than a block away. I go there. It's just like legit.
Oh, ramen.
Japanese.
That sounds really good.
Ramen. Yeah. It's bomb. So that's pretty good. And one of my favorite things in all Japan, and I'll close with this so we get into the Overwatch stuff, is the $1 pancake. Let me tell you, Andres, this will set you free. This is the best thing about convenience stores. They're basically these little mini pancakes, and they're about, I think, the size of a sand dollar, maybe a little smaller. So they're like tiny pancakes, but they take one pancake that's about that size and they put it on top of another one, and they do 2 of those in a little package. And between the pancakes, they have like this little butter that keeps them together. And then in between that is a little like very sticky version of syrup.
Oh.
And
kind of caramel or something?
No, it's like syrup, but it's just more sticky because it's not like the liquid kind that we have in the States. It's like, it's
Sounds
more
pretty good.
manufactured, but it is so good. They're amazing. And you throw them in the fridge for like 20 minutes and they're cold. Cold pancakes, brosif. So good. They've even got matcha pancakes. There's like green tea flavored pancakes and green tea like flavored filling if you like that stuff, but probably not unless you're like super into Asian green tea. But
I like green tea.
What are we doing this show, guys?
You can tell I woke up hungry today with this freaking slow cooked pork thing because we are just talking about food over here. Let's get into things. Let's get into Overwatch.
All right. Let's get into the show. So, guys, this week I'm clapping so much I could be a walrus. This is the show about the sounds of Overwatch. So we are going to science the crap out of these sounds this week, and we have some discussion on how to better understand what you can do about the sounds, like adjusting the sound settings, how to maximize like your listening capabilities when you run into a game, what advantages do you have by pinpointing what you want to hear, and then we're going to even run a quick quiz that Andres has prepared for me. Basically, we're going to play a couple in-game sounds and we're trying to guess. So we'll give you a little bit of lead time, and then I'll make my guess and or most likely correct response. Pretty proud of that, but I'm pretty sure I'll do well in this quiz. I'm very confident. And
I got a couple curveballs in there for you. Don't you get too confident.
All right. Well, I'm going to be confident, darn it.
It should be fun though. You guys can follow along and kind of guess along which heroes you think it's going to be.
Right. So let's get into the announcement. Okay, so by the time you are getting this into your earbuds or your ear biscuits, as they like to say over at Rhett and Link on YouTube, they have their podcast called Ear Biscuits. I always like that. Friday, the 31st of March, we are doing our monthly game night. So please show up. I'm not going to ever give times because it's going to last for like 12 hours. So just show up. It's there. It's early afternoon to very early in the AM on the 31st, according to how the United States people in their time zones will acquire time. So if you're in Japan like me or in East Asia, or if you're over in EU, your times may vary. So please check that out. If you have more questions, just run it by our mods and admin in the Discord. On the same night, we're going to be doing patron giveaways. So if you're a patron, boom, you get entered in a drawing, and we're going to be giving away some really cool stuff. The last thing about the announcements, guys, is BlizzCon 2017 tickets go on sale April 5th at 7 p.m. Pacific Daylight Time, as well as April 8th on 10 a.m. Pacific Daylight Time. And Andres will be spamming the refresh key. So if you guys want to spam the refresh key with Andres, pop in a Discord during those times, maybe a little bit before, and you guys can mess around and hopefully nail some tickets for BlizzCon. I know Andres is doing me a favor because that's like 4:38 or... yeah, it's somewhere ridiculous for me, like 4 a.m. on a school day.
Yeah, it's gonna be a long night.
So we're hoping to get there, guys. We're hoping to get there. Working on taxes. I know Andres has finished his. I got to work on a crazy extension this week, and then we're also gonna hopefully, if Patreon stabilizes and things get through, it's looking pretty good for me to go to BlizzCon. Just saying, but let me tell you what. Lift a burden off my shoulders if Patreon continues to stabilize and continues to go, because right now it's gonna be a pretty sizable chunk of my personal income to go into this as well. But I'm not complaining because I want to go and I want to meet you guys. So if you guys are looking for more BlizzCon, we're gonna be setting up a channel on our Discord for that in April. So look for it in the community.
Yeah,
Andres has a little update for you guys listening to the competitive discussion on how we're playing. So, Andres, why don't you spin your little legendary tale of what happened to you in rank this week?
We had a really fun thing happen in rank this week. We're queuing up with our 6-stack, just regular, kind of like competitive, not trying to scrim or anything, but we just happened to get matched against the High Noon guys. For those of you who don't know, High Noon is just another podcast about Overwatch. They focus on the competitive side of it. They're pretty cool. We go way back. I used to play with Deathblow, one of the co-hosts of the show. We used to have our own 6-stack back when Overwatch first started. And we just happened to like queue up against their entire 6-stack. On the first round, we were not paying that much attention, and we kind of get stomped, just like obliterated, like they completely destroy us. So I'm like checking their players on the next round, and I see him death blow right here. I'm like, oh my god, he's death blow from High Noon, guys. If you're ever gonna come through for me, we gotta win this fight. That reputation of the podcast is on the line. And everyone buckled up and they came through for me. We kind of like, it was a super intense match. We went back and forth a couple of times, but eventually we were able to come on top. And it felt really good.
Did you guys play Sombra? Or did you ban Sombra and Orisa from being played? So
I don't think we played Sombra. Orisa wasn't yet out because this was at the end of last week. We didn't play much Sombra. I think I played a lot of Tracer because they were playing a very divey comp. So they were destroying us with the less mobile heroes. So we went really mobile and kind of try to avoid their Genji and Tracer that were really oppressive against us. We counter the dive with a dive.
Probably played Pharah. Yeah.
The VOD is actually up. Crispy streamed the whole thing, and he has it in his Twitch stream. We'll probably link it in the show notes if anyone is interested in watching that.
Okay,
it was a very stressful match, but it was really fun. So yeah, that is my little tale
I'm gonna go
of the
watch
competitive
that.
week.
That's sweet. Yeah, Deathblow, like Tooth said in the Twitch chat here on the live show, is a very good player. I remember back when I was playing with you guys, this is on the dawn of me learning how to play Soldier. And I was playing with your Lucio player back when Lucio was just monstrously powerful before the nerf. Those were some fun games, man. I was playing back when I was like legit gold level. And those were some big eye-opening experiences to play with some diamond players in early comp season 2, I believe.
Yeah. He's a great player for sure.
For me personally, this week, I didn't have a whole lot of interactions. I've been just completely buried. I don't want to make excuses, but let me tell you, Hearthstone has got some cool freaking stuff coming. And my other podcast and I talked about it for about 2 hours this weekend. And I had to edit that. So that was a lot of fun to work through. But I'll save that for that show. So if you guys want to, if you like Hearthstone, head over there. But I've been slogging away at doing that and trying to help out my co-host over there. Been playing a little bit of ranked today. Went even on 2-2, and this is the first day that we got Orisa. So spoilers for our news section, but Orisa's back into comp now, and so games have been all over the place. But yeah, I somehow went to positive 10 SR.
Let's talk about that real quick.
That if you like.
What do you think about the Orisa launch? Because I've been hearing some stuff, and for the first time, people seems to be okay with the way that the launch was handled, at least with Orisa. There wasn't like a lot of overhyping going around her. She kind of just got announced in a nice organic way. There was some backstory to her, and then soon after she got put in the PTR so people could test her out. And on top of that, when she got released for live, she was not allowed to be playing uncompetitive for an entire week. And now she's finally playable, which I think has been kind of like the softest, less like knee-jerky introduction of a hero, right? It was kind of like very, very smooth in my opinion. What do you think?
Okay, just a quick thing, Andres, on this. We didn't start recording, did we?
I started recording a little bit after we started, but I have the whole recording of the video, so we're good anyway.
Okay. All right. Sorry. I just realized we didn't do the sync clap, and I was like, crap, my Audacity isn't running.
I did realize that too, but we're good. We have the backup of the backup.
Okay. So what do I think about Orisa? Man, this is a loaded question. So I actually played her in like the second match when I could. But the reasoning was we had a really weird comp on defense. So it was like Mei, Symmetra, Lucio, and Devo. It was like a super weird defense 0.1, and I didn't really know what to do. And I was like, well, we kind of need an anchor tank. I suck at Reinhardt. If we can kind of slow people down with Mei and slow people down with the turrets, then maybe Orisa's the pick. Right. So I don't know. So I picked that, and we did pretty decent. We forced them to overtime. They capped the point, and then we could not do anything. But I'm pretty sure the Mei on our team was a very boosted diamond player because she was just awful. You could not do anything and was playing like 4 minutes of Lucio, and then she's like, I'm gonna play Lucio. And I was like, you realize that the guy that played Lucio last time that you're asking to get off has over 200 hours collectively on that hero, and you're telling him to play something else. I was like, yeah, that's some good logic right there. So
but yeah,
that aside,
Orisa is definitely an
Orisa's
interesting
pretty cool.
hero. I don't think we've seen her full potential just like any of the new heroes that get introduced, but I personally enjoyed the way she was launched. She was not very disruptive and gave people some time to kind of get used to it, even the ones who decided not to participate on the PTR. So I was kind of glad with this launch, and I just kind of wanted to point it out for future like hero launches and stuff. This seems to be a pretty good way to go about it.
And I'll highlight another thing about this. I don't know, remember if we said this last week, but I think that this is a brilliant move on Blizzard's part to basically give the pseudo PTR to console. And even if I did say this last week, I wanted to say it again because it's just so impactful. Because without having a PTR for console people, they have the possibility of having someone locking in Orisa 20 games or more in a row as soon as she's available for the very first time in a ranked game, without this thing of like basically gating them by a week. And it's still going to suck. I mean, you get people on console that do it anyways, even as soon as she's launched after the week. But I like it a lot. And I think that they could even gate it by 2 weeks if they wanted to roll it out sooner.
That seems a lot though. Like once a hero is out, you kind of want to play it though. I think a week is good enough.
Sure.
You underestimate how much
I'm just
people
saying,
play in 1 week sometimes.
Yeah, for sure. So I really like the Orisa launch. I think she's very useful. I will say that on the map that I played against her and a Reinhardt, so the double anchor comp that we talked about being really scary, there's some really cool stuff that I learned on how to combo. So you can use the right click with on a grenade to make your entire enemy team purple if they can get sucked into the center of the mini grav. So that was pretty interesting. And the other thing that I noticed was the doubling up of the barriers. And then if you want to run Diva, you can also get the Matrix there. And that's super tough to push through. So I ended up picking Soldier for a lot of it. And then I was, why don't we just shuffle this up? I'll play Bash and just rip through them. And I was like deleting the Orisa. It was awesome. So Bastion still pretty good about countering tanks, let me tell you.
Nice. Now that Orisa is out, it does make me think that a lot of the Bastion changes came because they knew that Orisa was in the pipeline, and they knew that extra barrier, like there had to be somebody who had to deal with those barriers a little easier. So in retrospection, it does make me think that Bastion change was planned a little bit around Orisa. Not totally, but with her in mind for sure.
Yep. So let's cover our last little bits of news. It's just some minor stuff in concordance with strategy. The first one is that there's a brand new Widow figurine in the Blizzard store that just got launched today as of the 20. Well, I guess it would be yesterday your time, so it would be the March 28th. So that's pretty cool. It's a really expensive figure, full like freaking huge statue.
It looks super slick,
and then,
like super well made.
It looks awesome, guys. So if you like Widowmaker, you like your snipers, you like them purple, and you like them on your desk, you can go buy this. And we also have a new Orisa tees in the Blizzard store. You guys can go get those. And Overwatch League, I have a link in the show notes for the full deets on this, but supposedly they could make a schedule of earning about $100 million in the first year, according to the analysts over at Gamma Sutra on the website here.
So still speculation,
there's more details on
but
that. That's
it is amazing numbers. They are based on facts.
Yep. So there's basically the other thing on this is that Overwatch League would basically just need to generate about an average of 72,000 active viewers and hit 7.7 million viewers during the playoff season to make that a reality. That's kind of the big thing that they're looking at.
It's an ambitious goal, but like the way that they're setting up Overwatch League and how global they want to make it, I think that those numbers are achievable. There's still a lot of groundwork to be done, especially in the spectator side, in my opinion, at least to go into such a the big numbers in ratings that they want to get, they definitely have to make it a very viewer friendly kind of esport, which is not at the moment.
Mhm.
But the popularity of the game and the longevity of the game, I think, definitely makes it a possibility. I'm very excited for Overwatch League, and every time a little piece of information comes out, I just eat it up. I'm like, oh my god, what are they gonna say about it? But still very secretive.
Every patch, man, they're almost every single patch. I would even venture to say on average, every other patch that they roll out that's even sizable is going to have something significant to help with, custom game support and viewing and spectating. Like, it's always improving,
Mhm.
So I'm very optimistic that eventually they'll be there. They may not be there at launch of Overwatch League, but I know that that's something that's on their docket and a high priority item.
Absolutely.
But we are not going to dive into the esports. There's plenty of other shows like Overview and Payload if you guys are interested in that. But we are strategy, and we're going to focus on what we do best. So let's get into the sounds section for this week. All right. Andres, why are sounds important? And what can I hear in Overwatch that is important?
All right, let's get into it. Sounds. Why are they important in Overwatch? I'm pretty sure that everybody by now realizes that sound is important in the game. It can give you a lot of cues that can sometimes maybe hard to miss just by looking at them, just because there's so much going on in a game like Overwatch. And they have really made a really good sound system, and the way everything relates, and even like the location of sounds is relatively easy to pinpoint in Overwatch. We can get into that later. I know that if it's above or below you, it can be sometimes be a little trickier, but at least to the sides, it's relatively easy to tell. And I wanted to talk about sound today because we've touched on it very briefly in the past, but lately it's really something that I've been trying to develop for myself, because I've noticed certain things and I've talked to certain people, and I've realized that they use sound more than you would think. And training your ear to sift through this information can be really helpful. One of the few examples that I can give you guys of how you can take sound to the next level, right? Like the obvious part is obviously hearing for footsteps around corners, that sort of thing, or seeing the enemy behind you and before they shoot at you, or hearing the enemy behind you so you can turn around before they shoot at you. This sort of thing is the obvious. But if you really take it to the next level, when you're in the middle of the fight, for example, you can tell when certain abilities get used simply by sound. An example of this is the enemy Ana's grenade. You can hear it explode next to you, so you know that just went on cooldown. You can hear for hooks. You can hear for Zarya's shield. You can even hear for Genji dashing behind your team or above you. You can hear for Pharah's rockets when she's trying to flank you from a certain side, or when she uses her dash to fly away in a certain direction. And this can give you a lot of information that you might have missed because everyone is around you and you're not necessarily looking at everyone at all times. But if you're focusing your target, let's say you're McCree and you're trying to focus a Lucio that's dancing around the payload, and you can hear Genji dash to your left, you can now know that Genji is on your left without losing your priority target. And you can even respond accordingly by moving away from that flank location where the Genji is coming while still keeping focus on the target. Well, if you hadn't been listening out for that sort of thing, you might have just stayed there firing at the Lucio, becoming a very easy target for the Genji. It can also be invaluable during flanking, being able to tell what heroes are around the corner before you even turn. And it can also be super helpful just knowing when heroes die, because sometimes looking at the kill feed does involve you stopping, like paying attention to what's directly in front of you and looking above. And even if you just do it for like a couple of seconds, that's still something that can be significant in Overwatch. And I've seen even like some top players that play without the kill feed because they're so used to listening to heroes dying, and the sound of them like dying is so particular that it can help. So that's kind of like my intro sound, different things you can use it for. But let me get your thoughts on this, Rob. How do you use sound in the game?
One of the most critical first audio indications that I felt like I was actually learning to use sound for the first time was when I realized there is an audio indicator for every hero, including enemies, that every player can hear for low health indication. And that is when anyone goes like that gasping sound.
Mm-hmm.
And they all have a different one for each hero, and the volume is lower and higher for yours. Your volume is always going to be higher than the rest, so that you can hear when your hero is getting hit. And so you can hear the gasp and be like, okay, I gotta bail. In situations, or maybe you can realize how much damage you've taken when you're doing a chip fight at poke at the choke, you know.
Yeah.
So
absolutely.
I'm not quite sure what the specific health is. I was actually even looking this up on the official forums, and I believe it's when you hit the 50 HP threshold, or it could be a percentage. I think it's about 25% of the threshold. It sounds right, because I don't think if you're at 50 health on Reinhardt is when it goes off. I think it's like when you hit the 20% of his total health bar is when the gasp happens. So, and then there's other people are arguing in the forums that it's about 50%. So either way, there's an indicator.
It's around that area,
unquote,
yeah.
Low health. If you hear the gasp, it's time to split. Like, that's kind of the deal. All right. But I think that sound has been one of the most important things for me in improving, besides my individual positioning, because I can affect where my positioning is going to be based off of what I'm hearing. So I hear a double jump Genji from behind and to the left on Anubis. I know he's on the high ground, and I know that I haven't heard him land yet, so he's probably double jumped from the high ground, and he's about to land next to me, behind me, to swift strike me. Like you said, Andres, you can hear fire rockets, you know when she's jumping because it's freaking loud, and you know where she's jumping. And the other thing that's really interesting that we're going to touch on later is a lot of the sacrifices that you make when you don't play Overwatch with headphones on. Because if you're playing with just speakers, and the speakers are not surround sound, then you're really at a big disadvantage for people that are running headphones, that even people like Andres and I, where we have like what are called monitoring headphones, which are like very true to what the sounds are and very true to the positioning of where sounds are coming from. Because Overwatch does a lot of sound design in positioning where sounds have come from. And even if you're like with your iPhone headphones plugged into your computer, you're going to be at a big advantage over those people that are just using their computer screen speakers or laptop speakers.
Well, let's talk about that now. I would say that the ideal setup for Overwatch, whether you're using speakers or you're using headphones, you have to have a stereo field. And what I mean by that is you have to have your left and your right ear. I know that some people are playing sometimes with like speakers that are really close to each other, where that kind of like stereo image is not really there. But you want to be able to discern really easily, at least left from right. And I also know that there's a couple of options for the sound, and let's touch on those real quick. Where is that Dolby Atmos or just playing with regular stereo in the game? And regular stereo is pretty good. I think they've nailed the sound to be like where it needs to be relatively good. With that one, it's still a little hard to tell when people are directly above you or directly below you. When they're in either of those places, sometimes it's hard to tell if they're above or below, even if they're clearly above sometimes. But with the Dolby Atmos, it creates kind of like this virtual 3D space, if that makes any sense, and makes it a lot easier to play sounds in. It creates like it tricks your brain into thinking that sounds are coming from very specific locations, and that one is great to pinpoint like 360 degrees all around you where sound is coming from. The problem with it is that the sound quality does noticeably lower a little bit I don't know if it's maybe because like the sound files in the game are bigger and it has to be turned down the quality just a little bit to keep things going. I honestly don't know, but the quality is noticeably lower. So things do muddy up a little bit when you're trying to listen, especially and the battle is really cluttered. Things can be a slightly harder here, but location wise is a little easier. That's kind of like my take on those two different modes of sound. Have you experimented much with both of them?
I think that most players just need to try both and then figure out what works for you. But I have played a lot of hours with both, and I prefer the standard non-Atmos sound. And I've heard a lot of pros also advocate the same. So I don't really know if going too technical into this is going to be beneficial for the majority of players. But if you're trying to min-max and you just want to trust somebody's opinion and say, I'm going to go with what they say, you can't go wrong with choosing either option. But I have found it much easier to hear people from further distances using the stereo sound. And as a support main, I find that more beneficial than pinpointing precisely where people are in relationship in that 360 sphere. I would much rather know more of a loudness scale and accuracy within the loudness scale of how far away people are from where I am in a I guess instead of a 360 degree sphere, I like to know 360 degrees around my character model, like within a circle instead of a sphere. I'm okay with that. And there's still a good chunk of you be able to hear, above and below somewhat.
Yeah. And I agree with you. It's not like the other one you can't hear. It's like various like difference. Like I said, one is better for like positioning. The other one, like you said, is a little better for being able to clearly distinguish from all the sounds and be able to hear them from a little further away. I totally agree with that.
So what are some things that we want to actually look to listen for, Andres? So we talked about the things that you want to listen for, or things that you can listen for. So these are hero abilities. These are hero ultimates, both allies and team. On your team and enemies on the opponent's team. This is also deaths, but deaths is less important now that we have the kill feed that you should be paying attention to visually. But this deaths can also reinforce or give you an indication of if you hear a death sound, you can look to the kill feed to see who it was that died or how they died. And then you can also use it to worry about your positioning versus your flanking. Like you can use sounds as a flanker to see where people are when you're about to round the corner to know where they're going to be. And then you can even work on some other things. But what are just some other indications and that are beneficial in the sound design category?
One of the things that I've really started using sound for is in the middle of the fight to keep track of where the enemy team is and where my team is. Because you can't always be looking at all the sides, especially when you're focusing like your priority target, right? But using sound to hear where people are shooting from or when people are flanking you can be super, super invaluable. The way I've started doing it with my team, for example, is if we know that the team has a flanker or a divey kind of comp, we'll try to find a place where we're not necessarily super visible, kind of hidden away, tucked in a part of the map, and maybe just having like one or two people, maybe the tanks kind of like poking out a little bit. And as soon as we hear like that Winston jump by himself, like behind us, because flankers are pretty good at like not letting themselves be known visually, but sometimes they don't keep in mind how loud they can be. And even Genjis that are just walking through the snow or are walking through like a hallway, you can hear them pretty distinctively. So if you're waiting for that flank and you can hear him, you can really like jump on them before they jump on you. And sometimes they get a little surprised, like, whoa, how the hell did they know I was here? And it was because we heard like the Winston jumping or
changes.
Yeah, exactly. And you can react to those situations a lot faster like that. Or same in the middle of the battle when you're like, again, maybe you're fighting the Lucy or the Mercy, and that soldier starts shooting your Mercy from the left. And you hear him shoot at your Mercy. You can turn around, because of the sound cue and maybe flashbang him or push him out so he's not like pressuring your healers anymore. That sort of example.
You can even use it offensively when trying to find those mercies that are super slippery and trying to hide. Because you can hear the wing sound when they hit their guardian angel. You can hear their heels when they're walking. And there's also another layer of complexity because when people crouch, some people have actually a crouch sound. And there is also some people that have a significant difference in the sound or even a softer or completely silent sound when they crouch walk. And then there's another sound for when you turn that sounds a little bit differently than when you walk or when you crouch or when you crouch walk, as well as a reloading sound. And I remember watching Skyline's video, who has a great video resource. I need to look this up and put it in the show notes. If I forget, just look up Skyline on YouTube with sound. You should be able to find it very quickly on your search engine results. But it's super helpful to realize when you're in a 1v1 or a 3v3, when you're trying to hunt that last person and they're hiding in a corner like that McCree's about to flashbang you, you can hear them go like open the clip and then throw out the little shells and then spin the clip and throw it back in and ready to reload. And you're like, okay, I know he's in this room and he's in this corner. Mm-hmm. Just from him reloading or even turning while they're standing on a desk. And it's really, really crazy. But I think Andres had a really cool plan for the quiz for the show. Do you want to do that and talk about it?
Yeah, let's do that. We got some footstep sounds, and I'm gonna quiz Rob to see how his knowledge of some of the hero sound is.
Boy.
This is gonna be a simple quiz. All of the sounds are gonna be of heroes just straight running. There's gonna be like no trickiness to that. And some of them you guys are gonna be able to tell right away who it is, because some of them are very, very particular. But there's a few in there that are kind of like tricky, and like if you can learn to recognize them, there's certain like attributes that can help to recognize them. Can really help you pinpoint certain heroes before you even see them, which can be super helpful. Before we go into the quiz, I did want to answer this little question from the chat. Klim Dignair says, how do you deal with skin-specific sounds? Example, Halloween Reaper skin has crows cawing instead of repositioning when he teleports. Those do change slightly, but the footsteps at least are all the same. And I personally think that skins make it a lot easier to tell what hero it is. Because, for example, in Halloween Reaper, there's nobody else in the game who can make a crow sound. So as soon as you hear that crow sound, you immediately know is Reaper. There's no confusing with that one. And it's a matter of learning them. I'm not expecting anyone to sit down and like listen to all the sounds of the game and learn them. It's more happens by just playing the game.
As you play.
Yeah, as you play, you start getting more familiar with them. But if you are conscious about this and the advantage that they give you, you can be a lot more active in the way that you listen to them and learn them a lot faster and recognize them a lot easier. But let's do it. You ready for the quiz?
All right. I'm ready. I'm confident I'm going to do well. How many do we got?
All right. We got about 16 sounds. I don't know if I'm going to play them all. Okay. But let's start you off easy and see if our listeners can get this one too.
I'll give the listeners some time to listen and then I'll say it.
All right. We're going to start with this one right here. I'm going to play it again for you guys.
Okay. All right. You guys got it? Let's see if chat. Well, the sad thing about doing this live is that the live chat is going to try to guess like a significant portion.
Don't cheat. Don't cheat. Don't look at the chat.
I'm not going to cheat. So this is Soldier 76 before, or I think this is Soldier 76 walking. This is not Soldier running.
Soldier 76 walking. Let's hear that again. That is
I stand by it.
Tracer. Not Soldier.
Oh, now that you say it, I can hear the cadence in it. Like, okay, so it is Tracer. It's just like the tone sounds a little bit deeper for whatever reason than what I'm used to.
Yeah. No, I'm telling you,
Sounds a little bit
some of the
pushed out,
footsteps, especially of the more mid-sized heroes, are actually very similar to each other. And there's a couple of tells. With Tracer, at least, you can tell the hurried pace. You know how we're having a hard time telling between if it was Soldier running or walking? Tracer has a really quick pace, and her footsteps, even though they sound like boots, they're a little lighter. Let's go on this other one and see if you can spot it.
All right. Got put in my place on that one.
Right, let's hear that again.
Oh, this is a hard one.
There are some background sounds. It was impossible to get rid of all of the background sounds, so just bear with that.
Yeah.
Let's try it again.
Oh man, this is a hard one. You can play that one more time for me. I'm actually going to pull open the Overwatch roster.
One more time.
I'm going to guess this is either Farah or Zarya. So I'm going to go with... I also think it could be May. I'm going to go with Farah. I'm going to go with Farah.
All right, Farah, last answer. This one is actually Soldier 76.
Dang it.
Let's actually listen to the comparison. Let's listen to the first one, the Tracer one.
Okay, yeah, let's do that.
Oh wait, that was another clip. That one is very obvious.
That was with the
yeah. Very hurried pace.
Yeah, I can hear the hurried pace.
Yeah. And now we got Soldier.
Okay.
A little more pace, defense, almost marchy.
This sounds very similar to Farah's, and this is not Soldier running. So if you take that clip and you guys take your podcasting and you double it, that's really close to what the Soldier sounds like. It's a little bit more hurried and the tone goes up just a touch.
Yep.
So the Soldier, you don't really ever hear him doing that. You normally hear him at the sprint pace, in my defense. But all right, we'll keep going. I'm 0 for 2, Andres. You got to set me up for a good one here.
All right, I'm gonna give you an easy one here. You're gonna get this one.
Oh man.
Want me to play it again?
I hope you guys like German engineering, because this is Reinhardt in the flesh, ladies and gents.
One more time.
The tank with feet. Oh yeah. You can hear his shoulder pads in those feet, man. Like, that's so loud. That's definitely Reinhardt.
All right, Reinhardt, final answer?
Yep.
This is Bastion.
No!
Chad had it right. Chad guessed right. Good job, Chad.
Oh.
You can tell because
okay.
You can hear the roboticness of it. But actually, let me go ahead and play Reinhardt, because Reinhardt is kind of easy to tell. But it's worth noting the difference between Bastion and Reinhardt, since those are the two kind of like metallic sounding ones.
Oh, yeah. Okay, now that you hear them side by side, it's so obvious.
That is Reinhardt, yes. And every tank is noticeably a lot louder than everyone else.
Yeah.
Ryan is also a little more, it's a little slower. It has kind of like that monstrous feel to it. Let's listen to it again. And here's Bastion.
Okay, yeah.
It's a little more thumpy.
Yeah, you can kind of hear the gears a little bit in that one.
Yep. All right. I'm going to throw a curveball for you here. Let's see if you can guess this one, and let's see if
As if I
chat
needed
can
any
guess
help.
this one.
Okay, I think I know this one.
One more time.
Yeah, I got this one. I'm very confident this time.
All right,
Promise
go
you,
for
this
it.
is Torb. This is Torbjorn.
Torbjorn, final answer.
Final answer.
That's correct. Torbjorn it is.
1 for 4.
A good way to tell Torbjorn is that he has slightly heavy footsteps, but you can hear like the his gear kind of like rattling in the back. Let's listen to it again and listen out for like kind of like his gears and cogs rattling.
Torb has a little like thing on his belt. So it like holster, it's like the holster for his gun or for his hammer, and I believe that's what's that little flickering sound.
Yep. It has that little flicker.
And also Torb has to run a lot faster than other people because of his size comparison. So they had to speed up the sound, I believe, on his.
Yeah, it's a little hurried
stature.
pace too. Like he's going a little faster than other heroes. Let's check this one out. This one is pretty iconic. I'm guessing you're gonna get this one too. Chat better get it too. All right, let's go.
All right.
One more time.
Well, there's a ringing on that one, you guys.
What do you think?
All right. I think this is your boy McCree. I think this is McCree. You can hear the spurs spinning and rattling in the back of the heel.
That's correct. That's McCreasy peasy.
Okay.
McCree's actually one of the easiest ones to tell because his little spurs in the back of his things are very, very distinct.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, now
I think the other one that's really easy is Junkrat.
Yeah,
because he has a limp.
We're gonna do this one a little bit differently. I'm gonna play 3 sounds for you, and you have to tell me the 3 heroes in the same order that I give you the sounds. Okay?
Gosh. Okay.
All right. Here's the first one. Here's the second one. And here's the third. If I can find it. Oh.
I gotta hide chat. Can't look.
Can't find the third one. Okay, just let's go with this 2. I'll replay them again.
Let's just do the 2. Do the 2 again, yeah.
Okay, let's do the 2. What do you think?
Okay. Because you had 3, I feel like I know the 3, but I'm not sure on the very first one. I think the second one is Symmetra. I think the second one is Symmetra, and the first one is Widowmaker. And the third one would be probably Mercy, is my guess. If it was another heals.
That is correct. And in the correct order. Those are the 3 heal sounds in Overwatch, and I don't know what happened with my Mercy clip. It just disappeared on me, but I'll add it in post so you guys can hear it. But here we go. This is Widow. Very light sounding heals. Actually,
she's
Widow
very fast too.
Very
she has
light
the fastest pace.
and fast. Yeah. Here we go, Symmetra. It's almost like angry footsteps, you know. You can definitely tell that.
She's kind of like on a mission, you know? Like, I'm coming out of the elevator today.
The enemy of humanity is disorder. That's how she's walking right there.
I'm going to build some turrets, and I'm on. Okay,
yeah, so very paced, kind of angry heels. That's Symmetra right there. And Mercy has very light, even lighter than Widowmaker. Her heal sounds are super, super soft, but they are definitely healy, and they're the only support hero that has heals. So you can actually very distinctly tell where Mercy is, but she is harder to hear than Widowmaker and then Symmetra.
Right.
All right. I'm going to play another 2 sounds here that are actually kind of similar. I'm going to give you...
Okay.
I'm not going to give you a clue because I might give it away if I do.
No, don't give me a clue. I'm already screwed as it is.
All right. Here we go. Here's the first one. The only clue is these are medium-sized characters, which are sometimes the hardest to recognize. Here's the first one. And here's the second one. Let's try it again. First one. And second one. What do you think?
Okay, I'm between 3 heroes on this one. Can you do it one more time just for those at home?
One more time for you guys in chat and
probably
for Rob.
One.
Yeah, this one is probably going to be the hardest. Hardest and last. Well, actually, I got a one after this one.
Okay.
Here's the second one.
Okay. I think this is Pharah and Reaper. And I think Reaper is the first one.
Reaper first one, second one, Pharah?
Yeah, I'm going to go with that. I also was considering Zarya as one of them, but I think her steps are going to sound a little bit heavier than these.
Right, final answer?
Yep, Reaper, Pharah, in that order.
All right, you were really close. Actually, the first one is Reaper. Here's Reaper.
Okay.
It's paced and is not as loud as you would think, but it's a very distinct pace. It's kind of like a slower, medium size. And the second one is Zarya, actually.
Oh, it is Zarya. Okay.
Yep. Zarya and Reaper have very, very similar sounding footsteps. And it makes sense. They're kind of like similar sizes. That one was the one that I had the most trouble with trying to tell apart. Here's Zarya so you guys can listen.
Yeah, now that you play it and I know that it's Zarya, it almost sounds like the footsteps are a little bit more of a round sound, whereas Reapers are a little bit more of a narrow sound and a higher pacing, as well as just a slight higher pitch.
Yeah, Zarya has a slightly slower pacing, and I feel like her sounds almost have like that like snowy crackling in them, while Reaper is a little more like dry. It's just like the footstep, but the pace is very close and the tone is very close, which makes it hard to tell.
Right. And I feel like Pharah's is also really similar to Reaper's, but it'll actually change a lot more depending on the surface that you walk on as well. Because Pharah has the mechanical feet, similar to the spurs that McCree has. They make a little bit of a different sound when you're on metal surfaces than when you're on like stone or the soft training ground stuff. And then May basically sounds the same as Zarya, only softer. And like it's kind of a mixture of Zarya and Winston, I believe.
All right, I got a couple more that we can go through. We're not gonna go through all of the heroes because that would take forever. But since this is kind of fun, we're gonna do the last couple and see if you guys can guess these. All right, chat. I got one for you guys. Let's see if you guys can guess this one. Here we go.
Oh, this is easy.
One more time. All right. You think you got it?
You guys know? You guys got it? It's Hanzo. No, I'm just kidding. It's the Lord of Peanut Butter Scientist himself. It's Winston.
Yeah.
Got the 4 The 4 palms that are all very soft and open.
Winston has this sort of gallop almost, not to be confused with Orisa, like the chat was saying earlier, that she just sounds like a horse galloping. I actually don't have Orisa sound. I wish I would have gotten it since she's kind of new. But yeah, that slight little gallop that sounds like it has no boots. It's just like bare skin, just stomping on the ground. That is Winston. And we got the last one over here. A very worthwhile footstep sound to remember because it can save you a couple times.
I think you played this one in the pre-show, so this one's easy.
Let's try it. One more time.
Ooh, this is different than I thought.
What do you think? You need it one more time, or you think you got it?
This is a Shimada, bro. I'm just trying to figure out which one.
One more time.
Play it one more time. All right, just from sheer pacing, I'm going to go with my boy Genji.
Genji Fine Lancer?
Yeah.
That's correct. That is the master.
I figured Hanzo's a little bit softer and a little bit slower, but it's really close.
Hanzo is actually a little bit faster. The fastest pace in the game is by Genji.
Really?
It makes it very, very noticeable and very easy to recognize. His footsteps are a little lighter than a lot of other heroes, but that pace is the fastest. Hanzo's is just slightly slower.
The chat said hand soap instead of Hanzo. I love that meme so much. Great job, chat. You guys win the internet for the day.
Actually, I have the last one. I forgot that I wanted to do this one. This one is gonna be maybe easy, maybe hard. I think you guys will get it. Last one.
All right.
Goes like this. One more time.
I just got it.
One more time. Which hero is this?
Two correct answers. There's 2 correct answers, guys. It's Zenyatta and Ganymede.
That's correct.
Depending on how you look at it.
That is Zen. Zen is the only hero in the game that does not make any sound when it moves. It does make a slight sound when it crouches and when it jumps. So do keep that in mind if you want to be
he lands.
Super silent. Yeah, when he lands from somewhere, he makes like a slight little But aside from that, yeah, there's no sound with Zenyatta. Completely silent. The best flanker.
Now, I will highlight another aspect of this, guys. I hope you really enjoyed this, by the way. I know that I really enjoyed doing this personally, like live on the show, and I can only imagine how fun this is, screaming at the top of your lungs in your car commutes. So, especially if you don't have headphones on, maybe go re-listen to the show with headphones on and try it a different way. Or even just stop the show and show it to your friends and have them do it with headphones on instead of the speakers and see how they do. But there are a lot of things that Andres personally skipped on the show because of either availability or just even easier sounds to pick up. We already mentioned how easy some of the ones that I guessed right were, but we also have people like Junkrat and Orisa and Roadhog that are really, really easy to find out. Like Orisa is the only other one that gallops like Winston and sounds more mechanical like Reinhardt and Bastion. And then you have Junkrat, who has a noticeable limp. He's the only one that has a peg leg. So it's very easy to figure out who that is. And then Roadhog, you can actually hear his chain as he's walking around corners, swinging around. So he's even easier. And then Lucio has skates. So it's like, how do you miss that one? And at the bottom of this is you can always narrow your options down to 6 heroes because that's the only ones you're going to be going up against, or possibly 12 if you're still confusing your own team with enemy team. So just keep that in mind. You can always limit it, and at the end of the day, if you hear footsteps and you don't see a portrait or an enemy or an ally health bar, it's probably an enemy, so you probably could just get out. All right. So
Absolutely.
that's
And
just a little disclaimer I wanted to run.
the last thing I want to say about sounds before we close out the discussion and the quiz, that was really fun to do. Actually, we can maybe try to do this later with other sounds in the game because, like I said, footsteps are not the only thing you can learn how to recognize. You can learn how to recognize certain weapons. Like you can listen for Soldier 76's rifle versus Tracer's little guns versus Sombra's little semi-automatic. So you can learn to recognize heroes by the way their gun fires. Like Tesla cannon, for example, is super noticeable, and allow you to know where heroes are depending on that sound. You can also learn to recognize ability sounds like Zarya's shield or Genji dash. Like we already talked about all of these. And you can also do it. Well, ultimates are actually very easy to tell since you only have to recognize them by the voice of the hero. They usually say a heroic voice line as they're launching it, or at least a very distinctive sound. Those are not hard to tell apart. But regardless of whether you think or not, you are using constantly all this sound information to inform yourself about the game. And the more that you can tell these sounds apart, the more that you can recognize them, the more you can place them on a 3D field based on your ears, the better oriented you will be, and your eyes will thank you, and
Absolutely.
especially your neck, since you're not gonna be having to twitch your camera all over the place to try to get like a panoramic view of the battlefield. Instead, you can let your ears do some of the work.
I know Hanamiura is beautiful around the Hanami season in the spring, but you guys don't have to crane your neck. You can use your ears. But I want to say one more thing, Andres, as we close out. I know that I said that a lot this show. I want to just add one more thing. But for this section, if you're a newer player to Overwatch, I know that there's always new people jumping in. But there are 2 voice lines that heroes give for using their ultimates. And a lot of the times, they'll have one for allies and one for enemies. So if you do Soldier 76, for example, is the most easy one. He'll say tactical visor activated. And that means that is your team's soldier. But if you hear, I've got you in my sights, that is the soldier on the enemy team telling you he's about to kill you. So those are some other audio cues that you can notice that are different. And that is just one specific example of all of the heroes in Overwatch currently.
And that
so
is
you'll
actually,
have to look through some of those.
That thing that you mentioned is actually really important. And I'm sure that is the case with many other heroes. When an allied uses her ultimate or an ability, she might say a voice line, while where the enemy says one, it's a distinctly different voice line. And if you can learn how to recognize them, it can really, really help you know if it's your soldier, the one who's nano visoring in the back, or if it's the enemy soldier. And that can make a huge difference.
Absolutely. Well, guys, I hope you really enjoyed this. I know that for me, Andres asked and pitched this to me really late in the ball game. And I was like, let's drop everything. Let's do this. Because this is such a cool concept. Took a little bit of prep, but not too much. And Andres, thank you so much for letting me be quizzed and fail miserably on some of these.
Hey, you didn't do too bad. Towards the end, you warmed up.
Yeah, I picked up the slack, man. You threw me a couple of T-balls, but man, I botched that Bastion one hard.
Oh, yeah.
Hopefully you guys at home did better than I did.
There was no point of reference, though. But yeah, this was fun. I think that this really works, especially for the audio format that we operate with the show. It's a fun way to interact with you guys too, and I hope you guys enjoyed kind of like guessing alongside with us. If you guys liked it, it might be something that we might look into doing a little bit more, like we said, with different audio cues and different stuff like that, since the format actually lends itself really well for this. Let us know, what do you think?
Absolutely. This is also something we wouldn't mind revisiting at a later date when we have more heroes. We can do a second quiz. We can do this at a year at the end. Like every year, we just do a quiz and we feature different kinds of content. Some are sounds, some are just quiz questions. There's a really cool thing that some of the Hearthstone people in the scene have done for entertainment called Jeoparino, which is basically Jeopardy with Hearthstone questions. And I'm sure we could do that with Overwatch, and that would be a lot of fun. We could even see if we could get a couple other podcasters and do a quadcast and have one of us MC the questions. That would be a lot of fun. So we'll look at that in the future. It's a lot of work to pull something like that off, and it'll definitely be something more of an anniversary type episode that we can do in the future. But we have some time now that we need to thank some of those people over at patreon.com/OmnicLab. Guys, this is the place where you can give your deepest financial supports. And by that, we mean you can just throw us a tip over at patreon.com/OmnicLab. If you guys like the show and you enjoy the content and you're engaging in the community, or even if you're not engaging in the community, you just like what we do and you just want to throw us a tip, that's the place to go. There's all kinds of cool perks for you over there. Just go check it out. We have VOD reviews for certain levels. We have sponsorship type titles as well. And speaking of sponsorships, let's shout out our sponsors like we do every week. We have Mr. RC Crispy over at twitch.tv/RC Crispy. We have Magic, a bit like Magic on Twitter, and our non-linked patrons that chose to be so. We have Ben W, Milk, Zampano, Cody K, Mr. Ice Weasel, and Sketchy Nonsense Podcast just joined the team. And these guys are great if you guys like some. They do a WrestleMania one, I believe, or some wrestling-centric one, as well as a general gaming podcast. So go check them out. They've chosen to sponsor the show to get their little plug. And we have some new patrons this week. I wrote down 4, but there's actually 6. So that's my bad on writing this in the show notes because I can't count. Been doing taxes too long, guys. But we have Salufo, Morgothia cosplay. And side note, she is in our PS4 community, and I saw one of her Death Knight cosplays, and it is fan-freaking-tastic. You guys got to go check that out. Jump into Discord, jump into the PS4 channel, and tag her in and say, send me your Death Knight pictures because I want to see how awesome your cosplay is. It's great. And we have Adam P, Mauricio D. Hopefully I said that right.
Mauricio?
That sounds like Mauricio. Maybe that's correct. I'm going to trust my Spanish-speaking counterpart here.
I got
And
you.
we have Sarah K and Robbie B. Thanks you guys so much for joining the teams this week. We really appreciate the support, especially as we're looking to gear towards going to BlizzCon. Every cent counts, let me tell you. You guys can go check that out over there. Andres, why don't you tell the folks at home about our community?
Absolutely. If you guys want to be part of our community, reach out to us or learn about other people who listen to the show and want to learn about the game and play together, you can always head to our Discord. It's a wonderful place. There's always discussion going on. Sometimes it gets a little heated, but nothing too bad. It's a wonderful community. Everyone's super friendly. If you guys want to meet other people who are like-minded and who want to play Overwatch with you, maybe put in action some of the tips that you hear over here, Discord is the place to do it. It's also a great place to get in touch with us as we are on it pretty much 24/7. Even though if we're not always interacting, we're always there if you guys need to PM us or tag us in something you want to ask. We have a podcast question section, so if you guys want to give any feedback or talk about the show, you can always ask there. You can also email the show at omniclabpodcast@gmail.com if you guys want to submit questions for the show or have any sort of proposition for us, any sort of new business inquiry and stuff, you can always send it there. And of course, you can always find all of our content and show notes on the website omniclab.com. Check it out.
If you guys want to find any more links for us on YouTube or on Twitter or social media, you guys can go over to our website again, Twitter or omniclab.com/links. And if you want to find more about our top level patrons and where to find them, those sponsors are going to be at omniclab.com/sponsors. Thanks for tuning in to episode 47, Sounds of the Game. You can find me on Twitter at NotRob. You can find me on Twitch at NotRobMay. My Hearthstone podcast is called Felon's Chosen. We're talking about Unguro Creator cards again. We have already over 20 cards to talk about for one show, so it's going to be frickin' packed this week. And Andres, you can find him on Twitter at iPlayGames. That's IPLAIGAMES. Thank you guys so much. We're going to see you scientists next week. And remember, don't be a lab rat. Be a scientist. See you guys.
Later.
I have nothing more to teach you.